Is that right? Okay. So in verse 5, it goes along with that idea. Whatever you do is, as long as you submit it to God, you're doing what God wants you to do. Okay, and God doesn't even allow the disbelievers to do things that He doesn't will. He's in control of the actions of the disbelievers too. One of the ways He does that is that He sends angels to protect the believers from the disbelievers' actions. Okay, so if He knows that something needs to be protected, He'll send angels, and it says that in verse 6. Okay. Then we go on to verse 7. The spoils of war that God bestows upon His messenger from the banished inhabitants of the town shall go to the God and the messenger in the form of charity to the relatives, the needy, and the alien. In this way, it will not be monopolized by the rich among you. Any gain spoils that the messenger gives you, you shall accept, and whatever he forbids you, you shall leave. Beware of God. God is strict in imposing punishments. The spoils shall also go to the poor immigrants who were evicted from their homes and deprived of their properties in seeking God's grace and pleasure, and supporting God and His messenger. These are the truthful. Okay, I'll stop there. Before it shifts the gears again. And we read about the spoils of war and how this shouldn't make the spoils of war shouldn't be given to the rich to make them just richer and more powerful. There are people that need things, and they should be given to them so that be fair. I think about like in World War II again, how Hitler and all the people they were taking all the riches from the places that they invaded, and the richer just got richer and more powerful, and the poor were left on their own. And God is most fair, and so He says, give it to the poor and those who need it. Okay. Are there any comments on this page so far?
Okay, let me comment here on this.
Good.
Exodus. Okay, here over and over again, God is telling us that He controls the minds and the hearts of every single creature, every single ant, every single elephant, every single human being on earth. And over again He's telling you that you have an invisible giant standing by you to protect you as one of God's people. There's an invisible giant standing, going wherever your children go, anything connected with you. When you go take a test, there's an angel with you, an invisible giant. And they know everything about nuclear physics, the mathematics, geography, psychology. And they deal with your kids. Here we have an example of the enemies of the believers were overwhelmed. They were a small minority, and all the tribes banded together to finish Islam once and for all. And finish Muhammad and finish all the people who believed with him. And they were a very small minority. The armies were huge. Now these are all the tribes of Arabia united to wipe out Islam once and for all. And they went around Medina. And they had allies inside the city, in the heart of among the believers. But they couldn't do it. There's no way they can do it. God put fear in their hearts, and as you see in Exodus, they just left their homes on their own accord. They were terrified because it's not them. It's not up to them. So they had to leave their homes on their own. They left their lands, their homes, their properties, and they just fled. The believers didn't do anything. They didn't need to. And as you recall from Surah 33, the Battle of the Parties, the the angels took care of all those parties that were surrounding Medina to finish Islam and the Prophet and the Muslims once and for all. Violent wind blew them away, literally blew them away, and they had to leave. And this is, God, you read in the Quran consistently that God's system does not change. There's an invisible giant standing by you to protect you, to serve you, to tell you I'm your friend, and to go with your children wherever they go. You have grown-up girls, don't think they are not chaperoned, they are chaperoned and protected. You don't have to worry about a single one of them. And this is no longer just a bunch of talk. We have here in this mosque, we have a track record right here, and we've seen examples. We've seen both sides of the coin. So we know what we're talking about. I mean, we are living the Quran. Even if God did not decree Exodus for them, He would have punished them in this life anyway. Because those who side against God, they just have no chance. The Quran repeatedly says, do not be impressed by their apparent successes, their apparent temporary successes. Their very success becomes the source of their misery in this world. They are not happy. Do not be impressed by their apparent successes if they are successful. So I hope I'm impressing on you enough that you will have confidence in God that He is sending His forces with you. The Quran consistently talks about invisible soldiers. These invisible soldiers, they are with the believers. But the problem with those people out there in the street, they don't believe in the invisible, they don't believe in the visible. And our visible range is very limited, by the way. And in fact, this life, the visible range, there are only 7 colors, like 7 colors in the visible range. And it's a very narrow range. Beyond that, we don't see. And there are things that we know exist. The X-rays exist. The ultraviolet exists. Ultra is on one end and the X-rays on the other end. No, they're both on the same end, but the X-rays are shorter than UV. Infrared is on the other side. You do not see the infrared. Talk about the infrared one time, and we said you can take a picture of that couch after David and Frank leave, and you'll see them there after they leave. And if one of them punched the other in the face, we will know who punched who after they leave, because of the infrared. But the UV and X-rays are invisible. UV is what hits you if you sit in the sun too long. And we're all aware of the X-ray. We don't see them, but they are powerful. So this is just a tiny sample of the invisibles. You have an invisible giant standing by you. If somebody comes to punch you on the nose, you can imagine what will happen to him. Unless you deserve it. And then the punch will come through. Measured. Spoils of war. Of course, only the strong, young, powerful, able will go to war, and they will get spoils of war. So God is saying, to be fair and distribute them, at least 1/5 of them must go out. In the Shia sect, they take advantage of this 1/5 business, and it is common in a Shia village that a man with a black turban will go to the house and say, give me 1/5 of everything you own. I'm a descendant of the Prophet. And they will give 1/5 of everything they own. This true? That's what some people told me. But al-khums, 1/5. So it is a misinterpretation of this law, or abuse. One of the most abused verses in the Quran is verse 7, where it says, whatever the messenger gives you, you shall take, and whatever he forbids you, do not take. It has to do with the spoils of war, but they make it to mean hadith and sunnah. So there is abuse. All the sects of Islam, so-called sects, course, in Surah 6, verse 159, it says, if you divide yourself into sects, you do not belong with God or with the Messenger. So both sects, the Sunnis and the Shi'is, are not Muslims. By their own admission, you ask, what are you? I'm a Sunni. Who's going to say that in the day of judgment? What are you? I'm a Sunni. What are you? I'm a Shi'i. You don't say Muslim. So both of them abused these verses in this particular surah. And you know something? I do go along with them. I say, okay, what the messenger gives you, take, and what he forbids you, don't take. He gave you the Quran. He uttered only the Quran. So even though they abuse the verse, I do go along with them. Are there any questions on this? You're going to forget that you have an invisible giant behind you, and with your kids, with your affairs. Don't forget that. Okay, we'll go back to verse 9 and Donna.
And those who had established their homes and their faith previously readily welcome the immigrants who come to them. They find no hesitation in their hearts to give them what they need. They even prefer them over themselves, even though they themselves may be in need. Anyone who spared the stingy nature of himself, these are the winners. As for the immigrants who came later to Islam, they say, Our Lord, forgive us and forgive those who preceded us to Islam. Remove from our hearts any hatred towards the believers. Our Lord, you are the compassionate, most merciful. Okay, these are fairly straightforward. You know, people that when a person comes to you and they're in need, a Muslim is going to help out. You know, when you see that there's a real need. You know, and they even go out of their way to help a needy person, as long as it doesn't interrupt their worshiping God alone. Okay, that always comes first. And then it says the immigrants who come later, they ask God to help them. Well, it says forgive those who preceded them to Islam, but then it says to remove any hatred from the hearts. Okay, and the believers should always hang together. Okay, there was what is it? There's a verse, I wrote it down, 3:103. Surah 3:103. You shall hold fast to the rope of God altogether, and do not be divided. Be appreciative of God's favors upon you. You used to be enemies, and He reconciled your hearts by His grace. You became brethren. God thus explains the revelations for you that you may be guided. And the believers should be united, and there shouldn't be hatred. And we should ask God, to help us, not be enemies, or to remove any hatred between us. Then it goes on to verse 11. The hypocrites said to their allies...
Let me give you a little rest here on these two verses, 9 and 10. I want to... This gives me a chance to thank God and be proud of something that our community does, and it's a perfect example of living the Quran. You all know Emily. She works Friday nights, unfortunately, but soon God will give her time to work here. But she packed everything in New York and she moved here. And there was a period of time when she was looking for a job. And she had no means of support. And I tell you, during all this time when she needed help, this drawer was full of envelopes with Emily's name on it. People were pitching in and helping her. And she kept her on her feet until she was standing on her own feet. I don't know who all those people are, but we're a small community, we're not wealthy. But this drawer had enough support for Emily. There were sealed envelopes with her name on it. And I passed them on to her, and that helped her. Just like she didn't feel. But this is an example of immigrants who join the believers, and the people who are established help them. And I know this is not the only example. I'm just giving you a good example. But this will always happen. This always happened in the past, and it happens naturally. When you're a believer, God guides you into doing these things. So I just wanted to note this, and also I want to go back to the protection and give you. I think we learn best by the real life examples of things that happened to us. I'm sure Lori will not mind mentioning her accident some time back, but it is an example of an invisible giant who's with you. Lori was in an accident. She was thrown out of the car, and then she took care of the driver. Her sister was driving, and her sister went to the hospital. No, nothing happened to her. She took care of her sister. Now, if you're thrown out of a car, you will hit something, or something will hit you, but no, nothing. You can imagine the invisible giant was carrying her outside in perfect safety. And this was a nearby track record. There are many, many examples. That was one of them. Real life examples, and we thank God for teaching us real life and through the Quran. Go ahead.
When it says, remove from our hearts what's it saying there? That some believers have some kind of hatred?
Okay, which verse is this? 10. As for the immigrants who came later to Islam, they say, Our Lord, forgive us and forgive those who preceded us to Islam. Remove from our hearts any hatred for us. These were people who were fighting each other. They were trying to kill each other. And then disbelievers became believers and joined the camp of the... So, these are people who killed my brother, my cousin, my father, in war. They were engaged in war, and now they joined. They know that this guy killed my father, or this guy killed my brother, and now he's a believer. So, and God did remove hatred from their hearts and became like a family. You have to take yourself into those days and understand what was going on.
Even today, we hear so much in the news that's bad, it's negative about Muslims, that in this culture, in this country, you can come to think of Muslims as being horrible people. And then if God chooses to guide you to this, then all of a sudden you can know the difference and have that incredible forgiveness. And hope that they'll forgive you too. But it is easy to have a wrong impression of Islam due to the so-called Muslims.
Yes, they're doing a good job giving Islam a bad name.
Yes.
You don't really blame the Americans.
Well, also, it doesn't have to be a deep-seated hatred. It can be just differences between people. There's always going to be differences between, just personalities. And, you kind of got to make compromises and so forth, so that the believers are united and stay together as a family.
It's a very nice prayer. Remove hatred from our hearts.
Okay, are we ready to go on?
11.
Okay. The hypocrites said to their allies who disbelieved among the followers of the previous scripture, If you are banished, we will go with you. We will not obey anyone against you. If we are fought against, we will support you. God bears witness that they are the liars. If they do get banished, they will not go with them, and if they are fought against, they will not support them. Even if they supported them, they will turn around and flee. They will never attain victory. Indeed, they fear you a lot more than they fear God. This is because they do not comprehend. They will not fight you together unless protected in formidable castles or behind walls. Their power among themselves seems impressive, and you would think that they are united. but in their hearts they are divided. This is because they do not understand. Just like those before them, they will suffer the consequences of their work. They have deserved painful retribution. They are like the devil, who says to the human being, disbelieve. Then when he disbelieves, he says, I have nothing to do with you, I fear the Lord of the universe. The consequence for both of them is eternal hell. This is the requital for the wicked. Okay, I'll go back to verse 11 there. And this set of verses is talking about hypocrites and disbelievers, and he lumps them together. And the hypocrites are saying to the disbelievers, okay, we're with you, you know, and you know, we'll go with you. And if they do get banished, they don't go with them. I mean, hypocrites are, you know, they stay in one place. They're just hypocrites. You know, and that's the reason God has saved the best place in hell for them, because they don't go with that group. They don't go with that group. You know, they just stay on the fence post. Okay, and they fear everybody else. The hypocrites do. They, instead of God, as they should. Okay, they're worried about what everybody else is going to think about them. You know, well, we want to be with this group, but we want to be with this group, and you know, it doesn't work that way. Okay, and they won't fight. It says in verse 14, they won't fight unless they're behind some big wall, thinking that that's going to protect them. You know, and you already found out over here in the first set of verses that, you know, it doesn't protect you from God. You know, if God's will is for them to be destroyed, then nothing will protect them. And then also in this verse 14 it says you would think they were united, but in reality they're all divided. You know, it's just like the Muslims now. You think they're all one group, especially the Christians that don't know anything about Islam. You know, they think, oh, Muslims, you know, there's a whole lot of them. There's a whole lot of them, and they're going to, you know, they're striking terror and everything. But there's Sunnis, there's whatever. I can't even think of them all. You know, and even between those, they're fighting, and one guy believes something and one guy believes something else. You know, and that's one reason why it's nice for the believers to be united, because I mean, the way they're so divided, one united group of believers is more than this divided group and this divided group. You know, it also shows their disbelief and their arrogance. They always want to follow their own way, and so, you know, like Atut said this morning, you know, they kick each other's butts. And
this hypocrite, I guess, discussed over and over 1,000 times. Like that's question for what are the causes for a human being to be a hypocrite?
The causes?
That's a choice given by himself or herself, given to him or her by God. Why a person chooses to be a hypocrite? It's not something to explain that they should be a hypocrite. It's very important. Answer.
Well, hypocrisy is lack of belief. Okay, so the belief is not there, and what they're doing is go along with whatever group they're with. So they're really worshiping their own ego.
Or is that a choice that they're making themselves?
Yes, of course. Yeah. It's a choice that they're making.
If so, why some are making, some are not? Is that in God or genetically or naturally they're that way? Is there any second power behind it?
It's a conclusion that they reach on their own. You know, this is a decision they make. We study our surroundings and we look at universe around us, then we decide to believe in God, or disbelieve in God, or go along with the crowd wherever we are. So these are the three kinds of people: the believers, disbelievers, and hypocrites.
It is romantic because, as you know, that there's person who already know God, which didn't know for me. This is basically being definition of Quran, right?
Yeah, they called mujahideen khalq.
Yeah,
When I
most
hear-
of the people, they're confused who is mujahid when a person was denying God and who is not hypocrite. This is why I ask you if you can please refer that to the time of Muhammad and continue to reach a conclusion. What are the definitions of a person who is actually
Okay, the definition of a hypocrite is one who says that he's a believer when in his or her heart are not believers. They say they are believers, and usually they don't know that they are not believers. So God gives us criteria in the Quran. For example, I know now for a fact that they are forbidden by God from saying La ilaha illallah without saying Muhammad Rasulullah. I mean, I did my own experiments. I used my education to run some experiments. I find it true. I mean, there is the last time I challenged the person, I told him, you are forbidden by God from saying La ilaha illallah. And he could not say La ilaha illallah without saying Muhammad Rasulullah. He was unable to say it. So here is a person who claims to be a believer, but he's not. So God gives us the criteria. One of them is when God alone is mentioned, they don't like it. When Muhammad is mentioned with him, or somebody else is mentioned with God, then they like it. This is in Surah 39, verse 45. So there are criteria in the Quran that will tell the person whether he or she is a believer or not. So the definition, now a disbeliever is one who says he doesn't believe. That's a disbeliever. And the Quran writes about them 2 verses. But a hypocrite is one who says that he or she is a believer when they are not believers. And this is why the Quran writes 13 verses about them. Because they are more damaging than the disbelievers. The disbeliever, you know the position. But the hypocrite is a person who claims to be a believer. What can you do?
The practice basically the hypocrite, I think that they used to pray fast and all
Yes.
and still they would call the
They didn't call themselves munafiqun. They never called themselves munafiqun.
yeah, that's right.
Yes. There's nobody on earth who thinks that he or she is going to hell. So, but we know from the Quran that the majority of people are going to hell. First, before you say anything, I confused you with Mohsen Bilyani.
Really?
I called you Mohsen, but
What?
I forgot your name.
Because you just, it's okay if you confuse me with Mohsen.
Yeah, you say you and
I don't
Mohsen are
like
very
that
close.
anyway.
So, Donna, introduce
I
yourself.
used to come with him here
Yeah, I know.
long time ago.
I just discovered recently that I confused you with Mohsen. And I called you Mohsen. But your name is?
He's not here.
Yeah, he is here. He's in
Is he?
Tucson.
Is his son?
Yeah. I just saw him the other day. This one I said, hey, wait a minute, this is Mohsen.
Doctor, I'm not losing my hair. The guy doesn't have any. But that's beside the fact.
Give me your name first, and that's the question.
I'm Hamid.
Hamid, okay. Now what? Go ahead.
Going back to our discussion, does Quran categorizes hypocrites worse than non-believers?
Yes.
Is that the reason that there are more verses about them?
Yes. Yeah, there's a statement in Surah 4 that says the hypocrites are in the lowest pit of hell.
Right. And also,
Now, a good example of the hypocrites, if I may say so, is Khomeini, for example.
Right.
He's a person who thinks he's the leader of the Islamic revolution.
He's the biggest hypocrite of all.
Exactly.
Right.
But he believes, he sincerely believes that he is a believer. But he doesn't act according to
We
the
know
Quran.
what
Huh? Go ahead.
Basically, my brother was mentioning about what was going on in Iran. They use it in their own benefit. And I think the line is very fine line. It's sometimes confusing for the ordinary people to really recognize this, who is who and which is which. And that makes it a little bit, unfortunately, hard, sometimes very painful and costly, like what we're witnessing in the case of, what is offered in the news. Yeah.
Rushdie Rashid.
You mentioned that Quran says that Prophet was non-believers, but if you go to the Romanian, the Quran has changed the verses from Quran. If you go to make a trip to Iran these days, you see that slogan saying all over Iran, hypocrites are worse than non-believers, but they say
No, the Quran definitely says that the hypocrites are worse in the lowest pit of hell. Because before the whole world looks at them as Muslims. They're acting in the name of Islam. Now, in the last 4 weeks, they executed 400 people in Iran because of drugs, supposedly.
Yesterday, according to BBC, 85 people yesterday alone was executed.
Right. This makes them 400 in 4 weeks. Now, the trial takes 1 week. And they don't. Maybe some of these people are insane. Maybe they have pain and they need to take drugs. Maybe they don't even take drugs.
No, but
So this is the name of Islam.
no, I had a letter from my mom, and she said that was the worst. And the drug dealer, they were anywhere. They saw them in any street anywhere, and they were so scared because they had young kids, and they were so scared because of this. And they don't like somebody was killed because of that. But I had another letter. They said, yeah, when they killed some of these, that was, and at least they can't see it anywhere. These drug dealers, and that's because we are here. We don't know. That's what my mom doesn't. She's not in this any politics or anything of this.
Right.
That was the letter I have from her, and we are here. We don't know what's going over there. If they kill. The drug is over there because of this situation, because the young people, they don't have anything over there. And the drug is all over there in the country.
Yes.
And this is easy. When you want to buy a drug, it's cheaper than you buy a cigarette, a pack of cigarettes.
So you talk about hashish and
No, the heroin.
heroin.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. When you can buy it cheaper than that.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah,
And
but who said that drug addicts or drug dealers should be killed?
That's from the Islam. They do it because they want to save. I don't know. I am not talking
They're going to save the country.
to save the country.
The country needs to be saved from them.
I don't know because I don't know. This is not something. When you are living over there, you have kids.
Yes.
You want to protect them.
From heroin?
Yeah, this is one of the worst things, I think.
Well, ironically, it was written, I'm sorry, I just don't want to interrupt it.
No, go ahead.
This is actually maybe the waste of time for some other but the situation is really worsening every day, and we hear here also, we know Iran is going through its darkest period right at this time, and hopefully we'll come out of it, inshallah. But he was even mentioning one of the regime's newspaper that one family sold their daughter and son in southern part of Iran next to Pakistan. He sold because he was addicted to heroin. He sold his daughter for 35,000 tuman, and for his son for 35,000 tuman, and his daughter for 5,000 tuman, which is equivalent like $250, just to get his habit.
Well, this is the regime newspaper. I don't know if I believe it or not.
Well, I'm saying once in a while they can't even. It is happening. This is one app from 100, but they can't really deny the whole thing. They try to minimize it, but it is really.
It's a mess anyway.
It is so mess. Even United States told his allies not to give this government money that they wanted,
Yeah.
but it is very unstable.
Maybe this precedes the true Islam. True Islam will come to Iran, inshallah.
And one more religious second was 10% of the population of the world are addicted to drugs. So 5 million, according to the newspaper.
They're addicted to drugs.
10% of the whole population. One country is drug addiction.
Well, I don't know.
The young people, not the old people. This is the worst thing.
Well, 10 or 15% of the Egyptians have been smoking hashish for 100 years. And nothing has happened to them. This is their problem.
Nothing is happening.
Right. Okay, back to Donna and verse 1.
18. Well, I'd like to point out that we refer to verse 16 where it says that Satan says disbelieve, and then he says, then when the person disbelieves, he says, okay, I fear God myself,
Bye.
I don't want to have anything to do with you,
Bye.
And it's a very strong verse. I would like to point that out. We refer to it quite often. Satan himself knows who really controls things, and he fears himself. Okay. Then on to verse 18. O you who believe, beware of God, and let each of you examine what he or she has advanced for the coming day. You shall observe God, for God is cognizant of everything you do. Do not be like those who forget God, so he made them forget their own souls. These are the wicked. Not equal are those who have deserved hell and those who have deserved heaven. Those who have deserved heaven are the winners. Okay, as Muslims, even on a daily basis, or even every hour or moment, every time you can remember, think about we should think about what we're doing, make sure that it's what God wants, and make sure that we're on the right track, and our prayers help us do that, by praying we get back on the right track and back to thinking about God. It keeps us from falling into sin. And then in verse 19 it says, do not be like those who forgot God. There's a verse in the Quran, we use it with the kids all the time, remember God so that he may remember you. Well, if you forget God, it's like like Abdullah was talking about one time in Hutub, you pick your own Lord, If you pick your job or whatever as the one that you occupy your mind with the most, well, you've forgotten God. That job becomes your God. That's the one you think about the most. And so, when you think about something other than God, or I'll put it, if you occupy your mind with something other than God, then you forget to feed your own soul. You aren't thinking about God so that he can help you in your daily life, and you remember God. It's just like an equation, It's a balanced kind of equation. You remember God, and he remembers you. You forget God, and you starve your soul, and God, you picked some other God other than God. And those that pick other gods, are the losers in the hereafter. Their souls are starved, and they won't be able to withstand the presence of God. And only those who have fed their souls and remembered God are going to be the winners and be strong enough to be close to God. Okay, are there any comments about those beautiful verses?
Any questions?
Verse 18. God says that each who you examine what he or she has advanced for the coming day. We understand. We have to frequently examine where we stand. And hopefully each day, at the end of each day, look at what we have done, whether it was in accordance with what God commanded us to do, or did we break any laws, so that we don't get into the wishful thinking that we believe and we'll make it. We have to examine our actions frequently and see if we're in the right path, because it's very easy to deviate from the right path and still think that you're being guided, but you may not be. So, and God gives us how we do that, like where what we are doing is in accordance with the Quran, and this is our guidance. And if we examine neutral, what do you call it? Just look at what you've done every day or every week, then you can see whether you're in the right path. But a lot of people they say they believe and they never think what they are doing. And that's what God is saying. Each of you examine what she or he advanced for the coming day, because whatever we are doing is for the hereafter. And this world is temporary, and we are working for the hereafter, and we have to examine what we are doing for the hereafter.
Frank, you finish something? Yes. Frank?
My question was pertaining to the same verse, and I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I guess like like when you pray out, whatever you think of, you can just pin right on the spot of. You don't have to pray out. Whatever you, I guess, cover is that you just ask God for forgiveness. And there, you are sure. Like you said, when you think of something, afterwards.
That asking God for forgiveness in itself is an act of remembering God. I want to give you an analogy from this life, okay? Just think what David Dixon is doing to guarantee a good life between the age of, say, 30 and 65, 35 years. He goes through school, and this applies to all of us. I'm just using David as an example. And because he's having such a rough time, it's really rough. Medical school is very difficult. So you go to school, grade school, junior high, high school, college, examinations, tests, staying up all night, homework. And this is to prepare for 35 or 30 or 40 years. Now, after that comes retirement, say 10, 20 years, for which people prepare the IRA, individual retirement account, and they're very worried, what they will have. Okay, what comes after that, after retirement? Let us say, not 40 years, let's say 40 million years. It's forever. 40 million years. So what are we doing for those 40 million years? For 40 years, you're going through all this studying and homework and all this rough. You told me today it's rough. And every student now at the university knows how rough it is. And this is just for 20 or 30 or 40 years. But God is telling us in this verse, examine what you have advanced for the coming day, an eternal day. The day of resurrection is an eternal day, 40 million years. How much are you going to need then? In your 40 years here, you need, let's say, $20,000 if you're really poor. $20,000 in 40 years is $800,000. This is what you need in this life. And for these $800,000, you go to school and you work hard and you're very polite to your teachers, so they give you a good grade. And they do anything they say. Come here 3 o'clock in the morning. We're having a special class. You go at 3 o'clock in the morning. We're having a field trip. You go to the field trip. You study all night. You're going to study all night. You do all this for the $800,000 that you need in this world. Now, for 40 million years. There you go. God told you exactly what to do for your PRA, post-retirement account, and how to advance the funds for your PRA, the most important period of your life. Every prayer, every contact prayer, God gives you, let us say, $1 million. It's actually more than that. But God puts in your account $1 million. And every time you remember God, you make a deposit. So examine. And this verse here means you ask yourself every day, how much does put in my PRA account? You must examine yourself every day, because on that day when you wake up for the day of resurrection, you're going to open your PRA book and say, how much do I have? That will decide what you're going to be for eternity. I mean, here you go to school and you work very hard to have a nice, decent life here. You have to do the same for eternity. Are you going to have a decent life there forever? You're going to be an honored person? You're going to be a humiliated person? It is all in your hand. God left it up to you. You can make deposits as much as you want. In this world, when you get your check, you go to the bank and you make a deposit in your savings account or your bank account. And God gave you infinite amount of deposits that you can make. You have the 5 prayers, these are 5 deposits every day that you make in your account over there. And it is literally, this is what it says. O you who believe, beware of God, and let each of you examine what he or she has advanced for the coming day. How many deposits did you make today? Examine that. And then it tells you how to make the deposits. It says, you shall observe God. This is how. In the same verse. You observe God by doing the 5, this is the minimum, the 5 daily prayers, by being honest, truthful, being kind to the people, being an exemplary person. For God is cognizant of everything you do, meaning every deposit you make is going to be multiplied many-fold, because you're building up interest. God's interest is very high, 7,000%. That's God's interest. That's the minimum, excuse me, because God says He gives even more than that. So the Quran puts things in perspective and makes us aware that the most important part of our life comes after death.
I wonder if they have CD account.
Yes, there's CD account, and by the way, you can draw benefits now. Not you can, you have to. You draw benefits now. I think Hamid missed the part about the invisible giants that we have. This is part of the benefits that you draw. So you benefit from your account right now. And 19 tells you to not be like those who forgot God. So again, it's telling you how to make deposits into your most important account by remembering God. Do not be like those who forget God, and He makes them forget their own souls, meaning they forgot to make deposits for their soul. You're going to need that deposit when you get there, because you have eternity ahead of you. And this is the only time you can make the deposits. Now is the only time. Over there is too late. If somebody opens the account, there's zero in it, can't come back here to make deposits. This is the only time. Are there any questions? We'll go back to Donna and 21 or 20.
21.
21.
Awesomeness of Quran. If we revealed this Quran to a mountain, you would see it trembling, crumbling, out of reverence for God. We cite these examples for the people that they may reflect. He is the one God. There is no God except He, the knower of secrets and declarations. He is the most gracious, most merciful. He is the one God. There is no God except He, the King, the sacred, the peaceful, the faithful, the supreme, the almighty, the powerful, the dignified. Lord, God be glorified over and above anything they idolize. He is the one God, the creator, the initiator, the designer. To Him belong the most beautiful names. Glorifying Him is everything in the heavens and the earth. He is the almighty, the wise. Okay. These verses are very strong verses, and they're my favorite verses in the Quran. Me and Abdullah, we used to listen to these we had a tape of them, we would listen to it every Ramadan. These verses always remind me of Ramadan. When we were younger and could stay up more at night, we would listen to these. We would listen to these in the Arabic. And, this Quran is, it's the Word of God, and nothing can match it. And the mountain, it does what God wants it to do, and it knows it knows who God is. It knows the power of God, and it sounds kind of silly, but we should strive to be like the mountain. Yep. I think about how the angels, it may sound a little bit funny, but you should try to be an angel. I mean, they do what God wants them to do. They're the ones that made the right decision in the first place. And they submit to God and do what God wants them to do. And, the mountain knows that, and the angels know that. And God's trying to tell us here what to do, what He wants us to do. He spelled it out for us through what it calls here examples for people that they may reflect. This book is a no-nonsense history. It's full of examples that we should learn from. History is useless unless you learn from it. And God's given us a concise but exact history here, and we should learn from it. Learn to be like the mountain and the angels. And it says clearly here, La ilaha illallah, and there's nothing after it except God's names here. And He knows all our intentions, all our secrets, He's all-knowing by definition. I know it. And when I was going to the U, in our philosophy class, we learned that God by definition is all-knowing and all-powerful. But people don't stop to think about that. They don't even stop to think what God means. And so then they get these things, well, we got to help God, and we got to do this for God, God can't do it Himself, But God by definition is all-knowing and almighty and all-powerful by definition alone. And then it goes on to say He's most gracious, most merciful, He's given us a chance here on earth to a second chance, to do what's right, to be like the angels in the mountains, because we were so stupid in the beginning. And then again it says La ilaha illallah, and then it goes on to name God's names again, and it says the King. And in our class we've taught the kids, if God is your king, then then you're always in God's kingdom. If God is your king, because God is everywhere. So wherever you are is God's kingdom, as long as God is your king. The sacred, the peace, there's no peace without God. Happiness can only be achieved through God, and happiness is true peace inside. I skipped over the sacred. He's the highest, the most holy. And then it says he's the faithful. And if you turn to Surah 2, verse 186, it's a section on Ramadan again. It says, "And when my servants ask you about me, I am always near. I respond to the call of any caller who calls on me. Therefore I shall respond to therefore they shall respond to me and believe in me, that they may attain guidance." God's always there when we need him, and he's just there to help us all the time. He's the supreme, he's the best, the almighty, the powerful by definition, and the dignified. We're told in the Quran that in the hereafter we'll be humbled because we're nothing compared to God. All dignity belongs to God, and we're nothing. We're dust particles and less than dust particles in comparison to God. God be glorified over and above anything they idolize. And we went over these verses with the kids tonight, and we were talking about how there's whatever is good here on earth, whatever is, you might say something is terrific or the best or something. God is always better, God is always the greatest. He's always a step above anything here we have on earth. So anything that you idolize here on earth, God is always better than that, I mean, like I just said, we're all only dust particles, and everything here on earth is just nothing also. And so God has to be greater because he controls it all. He is the one God, the creator, the initiator, the designer. And it doesn't mince words here. It doesn't say that he was the constructor. The Quran is very precise here. All God had to say was be, and he initiated the creation, his design. He designed it, and all he had to say was be, and it was. And to God belongs the most beautiful names. A lot of these names, a lot of Christians and Muslims both put to their idols. Like, I know, for example, it's not here, but some people call Jesus the healer. Now, you would say, no, Jesus isn't the healer, and they'll go into convulsions or something, But you say God isn't the healer, and okay, well, we accept that, They aren't insulted by it. It's like Gatun was saying today in the khutbah, they aren't insulted when you lessen God, but you lessen their idols, and that's not to be. Yeah. Then it uses the same verse, the same phrase here, glorifying him is everything in the heavens and the earth. He is the Almighty, the Wise. It's the same phrase here at the beginning of the surah. And I know I always think, well, the disbelievers, do they glorify God, And I got to thinking about that this week, and, they glorify God in making this come true. Because their actions and everything show the believers that this is the truth. You sit here and you read about the hypocrites and their allies, the disbelievers and so forth, and you say, that's those people. And so they show the glory of God by showing that his words are true here, in the Quran. Are there any more comments?
I meant to tell you to take 2 surahs, but I forgot.
Yeah, you did, but there's not much time to go.
I'm going to stop here. It's okay. God bless you. Very good, sir. Abdullah.
I guess these last 3 words are the most concentrated words to If you take all the surahs up to this point, and all the surahs, the rest of the Quran, you take this side to the left side, you add them all the verse numbers and chapter numbers, they are divisible, and if you take the rest of the Quran, you add the chapter numbers and verse numbers are divisible. It's even mathematically designed.
This was the mountain will crumble. Perhaps.
If you take all the verse numbers with the chapter numbers, you add them up. I can't remember the numbers now, I just remember it's divisible up, if you come to all the way from the beginning of the Quran to the verse 21. Then if you take the next following 61 and all the rest of the Quran, you do the same thing, it's divisible.
Add them all.
Add them all with the chapter numbers.
I just want you to reflect with me on the designer, something we take for granted. See, Nagma is scratching her ear. And when she did this, in the process, you just look at the design of the arm. You can take your arm like this to your ear, and then you go like this. And how did God design this? It's a very important thing. She did this without even thinking. Right? But it's quite a design. Now, more complicated are your teeth. How are your teeth fitting together? The upper and the lower, how they're fitting together perfectly? First, you did something wrong, Hamid. There are cutters in the front. You have these cutters in the front and the eye teeth. These are important also, so you can pull on the stick if it is tough. And then back there are the molars that grind. They're flat and they fit in each other perfectly. Every hole or cavity has something on the other side, unless you eat too much sugar. But the two jaws are fitting together perfectly, except Hamid. We take our fingers, we design the nails. What are these nails for? Very simple things. And they keep growing and they keep cutting them and they keep growing. God's design, the designer. Why 2 eyes, 2 kidneys? 1 mouth and 2 ears, which means shut up and listen. To me. God is teaching us to listen a lot, not to talk too much, because we get in trouble. 1 mouth and 2 ears, there's a message there. This is a design. Okay, well, we thank Donna for her good job. Next time will be 3 surahs. And tomorrow starts today started the spring break at the university. And I know that my daughter will miss homework, so she's going to be our teacher next week. Going to do homework. Surah 60, 61, and 62. So she'll be our teacher next Friday. 3 surahs. Because we don't want to take just 1 surah every time, or it will take forever. And Robert.
This goes back to the verse on when we were talking about the hypocrites, and it's in the Quran that they're the ones who disbelieve and believe, disbelieve and believe, and then fall deeper to disbelief, and they are the ones who.
No, these.
They're with one side, and they're with the other, and they go with one side and with the other. They're people that never make up their minds. They want this, but they want that. And in terms of us, when we make our covenant, the hypocrite never knows they're a hypocrite. The disbeliever never knows they're a disbeliever. Okay, so everybody, when it came right down to it, nobody thinks they're going to nobody thinks they're going to hell. So when you look at this, like you said, Ayatollah Khomeini is a hypocrite. But yet, because he thinks he's a believer, but then again, the Christians are,
that's bad to say that. Certain Christians or some Christians.
Actually, it's common to all human beings. It's common to all.
I don't want to generalize because you get in trouble when you do something like that. But saying certain people, okay, if somebody idolizes Jesus, that's the best way to say it, then that person who may well think they are a believer is an idolater. Okay, and that's where that makes them a disbeliever. Would that also make him a hypocrite? Well, no.
Yes,
not really
yes. He's a hypocrite because he thinks he's a believer and he thinks he's going to heaven.
But everybody thinks they're going to. Nobody thinks they're going to hell anyway.
Well, this believer just doesn't even think, he thinks hell doesn't exist. See, but the hypocrite says he believes in God and he knows there's heaven and there's hell and he knows he's going to heaven.
Well, then in that case, the only people that would be disbelievers are essentially atheists.
Yes, exactly.
So then all people are hypocrites?
Yes. The vast majority are, yes. That's why in Surah 12 God says most people, no matter what to do, will not believe. Okay, and then most of those who believe will fall in idol worship. So the vast majority are hypocrites.
My question does not relate to that.
It's okay.
But it's fine. In Surah 53, on the footnote, the trust of belief of Muhammad, the Quran found in of Muhammad says, and it says that Muhammad actually was unconscious when he was telling the Quran.
Yeah, no, that's wrong.
This
is what is written in the history books, but it is not true. I don't believe it.
Okay, then. So then there's some other place.
Yeah, Muhammad was very much conscious, and he wrote the Quran with his own hand. These are things that we didn't know at the time of printing this translation.
Now then, later on I have read in one of the papers from the New Quran, those two verses that must be deleted. What was the reason for gathering ayahs and having every ayah to be verified?
No, that didn't happen either. This is what they said. This is what they wrote in the books. According to them, they collected the Quran and they had every verse witnessed by at least 2 witnesses. Except the last 2 verses of Surah 9, they found them only with a late Muslim, Medinan Muslim, and then the hadith supported him by saying that his testimony equals 2. And this is all nonsense, of course, and this is the idea of putting that nonsense. But the Quran was written by the Prophet with his own hand, and the instructions were on the side as to where every piece goes. And the committee that was putting the Quran together during Uthman's time were using that. They didn't need any witnesses. But I'm narrating what they wrote in Bukhari and the Sunnah books and all that because it's a bunch of nonsense.
Then what that being used as an evidence that the 2 verses were doubtful from?
Right, because the thief feels something that exposes himself.
Now, say that was nonsense, then how could that be used as an evidence?
Because it indicates that they were suspicious of their own crime. They knew their crime. There is a famous story in the Middle East. I don't know if it is also known in Iran or not, but this king or something, one of his precious birds was stolen. So he got all his servants and they lined them up in a line, and he said, I want the person who stole my precious bird to come forward and confess, and I will forgive that person. I will forgive him. Nobody came forward, so he kept saying, I know who the person is, but if he comes forward, I will forgive him. I want him to confess on his own and bring my precious bird back. Nobody came forward. Then he said, you see, I know because that person has a feather on his head. So one of them went like this. So the guilty so the guilty person always exposes himself in this manner. And they made up these stories reflecting their suspicions of the two verses. So I reported them as it is written in Bukhari. Maybe I should point out that the fact is...
Yeah, it doesn't say that.
Okay, good point. Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna wish Matt a happy birthday. His birthday was Wednesday. We're gonna pray to God to give him the happiest year of his life coming up, and every year after that to be even better. And as you recite, turn to God and ask Him to fulfill your dearest wishes. Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Congratulations, you just deposited $10 billion in your PRA account. No kidding. It's all worth it.